What's going on, guys? It's your boy John the Liquidator coming back with another video. And it looked like one WNBA reporter has found himself in serious hot water after calling Caitlin Clark selfish to praise up.
Did a prominent WNBA reporter just light a match under a powder keg, or was it a deliberately calculated move to create drama around basketball's most talked about new superstar? A single, seemingly off-the-cuff comment has sent shockwaves through the sports world, leaving many to question if the narrative around Caitlin Clark is already being unfairly twisted.
Now, this reporter is pretty much saying Caitlin Clark was a selfish basketball player. She didn't include her teammates. Just a bunch of...
The fallout from this one statement was immediate and intense. Fans, seasoned analysts, and even casual observers found themselves caught in the crossfire, dissecting every word. What was clear was that the backlash wasn't just emotional, it came armed with cold, hard facts, ready to challenge a narrative that felt, to many, deeply flawed from the start.
Now, we know Paige Beckers is set to make her debut in the WNBA as well in the next coming days. And I'm telling you right now, it is definitely...
It all ignited when a WNBA reporter, perhaps looking to offer a unique angle or simply make a name for themselves, decided to weigh in on Caitlin Clark, the league's most electrifying rookie. But this wasn't a segment filled with praise for her undeniable talent. Instead, it was a critique, cleverly disguised within a compliment for another emerging star. The core of the controversy lay in a direct comparison. The reporter asserted that Paige Bueckers, another highly touted rookie, would likely transition to the WNBA more smoothly. The reason given, Bueckers was framed as not as flashy and, more critically, more unselfish than Clark. This explosive claim landed before Bueckers had even played a single minute of official WNBA basketball. The timing and the phrasing were everything. By praising Bueckers for these supposed traits, the reporter was, by clear implication, painting Caitlin Clark as the opposite, selfish and her flashy style of play a potential negative. It was the kind of subtle, passive-aggressive jab that often aims to wound without leaving obvious fingerprints. But the internet, with its millions of eyes and ears, misses nothing. This wasn't a comment that was going to slide by unnoticed. The suggestion that Clark was somehow a problematic player, especially in comparison to an untested peer, immediately set alarm bells ringing. The fuse was lit and a full-blown debate was about to explode. This is precisely where the reporter's narrative slammed headfirst into the unyielding wall of reality. How can a player so quickly branded selfish simultaneously be leading the entire WNBA in assists, especially as a rookie still finding her footing in a new league? The contradiction was glaring. And the evidence didn't stop there. Beyond her assist numbers, Clark had already etched her name into the rookie record books with a triple-double. If orchestrating the offense to such a high degree, facilitating plays for her teammates while also being the team's primary scoring threat is now considered selfish, then the very definition of the term within basketball needs a radical reevaluation. As for the criticism of her being flashy, that too seemed to miss the point entirely. When those audacious no-look passes connect with open teammates for easy scores, and when those seemingly impossible logo threes stretch opposing defenses to their breaking point, flashy begins to look an awful lot like devastatingly effective. This wasn't just about style, it was about tangible substance, a substance the initial criticism chose to ignore. What the controversial take also conveniently overlooked was the absolute trial by fire Caitlin Clark was thrown into from her very first professional game. Imagine playing an exhausting 11 games in a mere 20-day span, coming straight off the emotional and physical drain of an NCAA championship campaign. There was no gentle easing into the pros. Contrast this with the widely anticipated smoother entry for Paige Beckers, who was expected to join a more established team environment, benefit from stronger support structures, and face significantly less of the immediate intense pressure that Clark was under. Clark received no such introductory luxuries. She was thrown directly into the storm. From the moment she stepped onto a WNBA court, Caitlin Clark was a marked woman. She faced relentless double teams, suffocating full-court presses, and defensive schemes meticulously designed to neutralize her impact. Yet, even under this extraordinary duress, she was consistently putting up remarkable numbers for any player, let alone a rookie. So, when this reporter dared to suggest that Clark wasn't passing enough or was perhaps too focused on her own individual play, it transcended a mere questionable opinion. It felt like a deliberate, almost willful ignorance of the incredibly challenging circumstances she was navigating on the court every single night. To label her selfish in this context is to fundamentally misunderstand or ignore the defensive reality. Entire opponent game plans were and are centered around stopping her. This forces her into making incredibly difficult plays and threading needles with her passes. Those flashy moments aren't for showboating. They're often born out of sheer necessity, a creative solution to break down suffocating defenses. This attempt to manufacture a rivalry with Buchers, to cast them as opposing forces before Buchers had even proven herself at the professional level, reeked of lazy journalism. It's a tired media trope designed to generate clicks and controversy rather than provide insightful, nuanced basketball analysis. And the response to this forced narrative was about to reveal just how off base it truly was. The internet, as it often does, erupted with a volcanic force. Fans weren't just expressing anger, they came prepared. They brought statistics, they shared game footage, and they articulated a deep understanding of Clark's journey from college phenom to WNBA rookie. How can you possibly call someone selfish who is leading the entire league in assists as a first-year player? One user logically demanded. Another fan quipped, "That's not basketball analysis, that's pure fan fiction." The overwhelming consensus was crystal clear. The selfish accusation was not only unfair, but demonstrably false. Clark's flash wasn't empty, it was functional. Her daring passes and long-range shooting prowess aren't just for the highlight reels, they are fundamental to her game and her team's offensive strategy. Then, as the heat intensified, came the almost predictable backpedal. The reporter, facing a barrage of criticism, attempted to reframe the initial comments, suggesting they were misinterpreted or perhaps not intended as a direct dig at Clark. But the damage had already been done. You don't get to light a fire and then act surprised when it spreads. This wasn't merely about a simple misunderstanding of words. It was about a narrative that seemed determined to diminish Clark's accomplishments while simultaneously anointing her peer before the race had even properly begun for Buchers. This incident unfortunately highlights a broader and often troubling tendency in sports media: the rush to create drama, to cast heroes and villains, often at the expense of a deeper, more thoughtful understanding of the game and the athletes who play it. This is particularly striking when considering Clark's undeniable, almost seismic impact on the WNBA. Ticket sales have skyrocketed where she plays, viewership numbers are breaking records, and her jerseys are among the most sought-after items. To frame her contributions in a negative light, given this context, felt not just out of touch but almost counterproductive to the league's own growth. But the scrutiny Caitlin Clark faces extends far beyond a single reporter's opinion. There's an immense, almost suffocating weight of expectation placed upon her young shoulders. She hasn't just been welcomed as a talented rookie, she's been widely positioned as a transformative figure, expected to elevate not just her team, but the entire league virtually overnight. This level of pressure is extraordinary. And then there's the turnover narrative. Yes, Caitlin Clark commits turnovers, but so does nearly every high-usage playmaker in the history of basketball. When a player is tasked with initiating the offense on almost every possession, navigating constant traps, and attempting high-risk, high-reward passes to create scoring opportunities, turnovers are an inevitable part of the equation. They are more often a byproduct of responsibility and volume than a definitive sign of selfishness or poor decision-making. What many critics label as flashy, or perhaps even subtly hint at as arrogant, is perceived by many who watch her closely as something entirely different. Pure, unadulterated swagger. It's the confidence of a player who knows her capabilities. Caitlin Clark plays with an undeniable fire, a palpable passion that electrifies arenas. She sinks deep threes and isn't afraid to show her emotion, a trait often celebrated in male athletes, but sometimes unfairly criticized when displayed by women. The truth is, Clark isn't likely to change her dynamic style to appease outdated notions or insecure commentators. Her game is exciting, it's innovative, and it's undeniably bringing a legion of new fans to women's basketball. Her supporters are fiercely loyal because they see the relentless grind, the exceptional talent, and the genuine heart she pours into every single game. They understand that her supposed selfish play is often her taking decisive charge precisely when her team needs it most. So, what is the real story unfolding before our eyes? Is this a legitimate debate about differing basketball philosophies, or is it a more concerning reflection of how quickly the media can attempt to shape or even distort the narrative around a dominant female athlete who dares to be unapologetically herself? The selfish label unjustly slapped on Caitlin Clark doesn't just crumble under factual scrutiny. It completely ignores the broader context of her unprecedented rookie season and the immense weight she carries. The WNBA is incredibly fortunate to have talents like both Clark and Buchers, and there's more than enough space for both to shine without resorting to tearing one down to elevate the other. Clark's game is already speaking volumes, far louder and more eloquently than any hastily delivered hot take.